Okay, so for the past year and a half, I've been working for Teleperformance, who are the outsourced operator for the Universal Credit Claim Reviews from the Department for Work and Pensions. They are also a company that will be responsible for a great many of the call centres that you will not know were Teleperformance for many businesses across the UK, including British Gas, Virgin Media, and many more. Every single terrible interaction that you may have seen on Watchdog is a likelihood that it was Teleperformance. They are also involved with Meta, Blizzard, and a great number of massive organisations, Google, and many more. As a team leader, I was very aware of all of the companies that Teleperformance was involved with because it is very much listed on most of the forms that you have to complete doing your job. So, I have been a team leader for Teleperformance as well as an agent on the Universal Credit Claim Reviews. I have a great deal of experience with how Teleperformance operates, and quite frankly, the way that things have been running with our business have been very, very inappropriate towards a great deal of many staff, and a lot of them are quite rightly expressing a great deal of dissatisfaction with the company. Now, first thing I'm going to do is state that as team leader, my official title is Customer Service Supervisor. I was being paid supervisor rates to manage a team of at least 12 agents, and when they say manage, they mean literally you have the responsibilities and actions of manager. HR and all other business operations, you practically do it all. There is a department that you can email for support on things, but you will be having to file literally all of the paperwork for any agents that might resign or leave or have to be let go. You will have to write up all investigations on entire things, hold the meetings for that. Every single appraisal, monthly performance review, coaching, everything to do with that. Managing their timekeeping, their timesheets, and literally, you are essentially the head of a little cell. You know, like a terrorist cell, except it's a business. And every team leader is their own manager of this cell, being paid inappropriate wages for doing full manager's responsibilities. And, you know, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the company. Not only is the training insufficient, but the way that upper management will speak to people is absolutely inappropriate. They will demean people, they will talk down to them. If you dare speak out against anything that is going wrong, you will get accused and you will face that. Complaints will not be remotely investigated, they will just be ignored and you will be told you are wrong. If you have an agent that is shouting at you, who, when you were first handed that agent, you were told they've got several complaints against them from clients at the DWP and that their interactions are goddamn awful with people. And if they then start shouting at you down the line, you get told, no, you must have spoken to them wrong because apparently this has never happened to anyone. They then get a literal email from the Department for Work and Pensions for, before they were ever on my team, four phone calls across the early parts of 2024 or 2025. Again, still before I had them because I started September for that team and it was in the early months of 2025. And there were 4 separate phone calls of incidents where they've made claimants suicidal. And yet the agent's shouting at me and being inappropriate with me on multiple occasions, and I'm not allowed to take any action against them because the company wants to defend them and claim that I must be responsible. Now, let's go into the actual evidence of the fact, because they are the only agent that was really a problem with that. You know, when I first had the team, there were many, many, many more issues, including agents that were breaching the Data Protection Act and a great deal of many other very, very significant issues that I'm not going to go into on this because why spend 10 years explaining every detail? What I am going to do is show you how my agents that actually were my agents actually loved me and cared for me. Okay, so camera down here, I guess, so that we can read these. So when I was being forced out of my team towards the end of January this year, I was practically being forced because I was told I would either have to take on this agent that would mentally scream at me every single interaction and was driving me insane, and I couldn't cope with being screamed at by this agent ever again, or have to switch teams to another team, where I was promised that what the team switch would involve would be no agents with any serious issues whatsoever. They would all have their cases in a fantastic state. They would not be anything that would be remotely inappropriate in the way that they talk to you, and it would only be a temporary measure until brand new agents were trained in, which would be from the next 1 week to a month maximum. Obviously, in a month at this point, and I'm being told that I would still have to take the goddamn awful team that I was put on. We can explain that in a bit. But at the point of transferring to the team, a lot of my agents posted very, very lovely messages about how fantastic I was as a team leader. So fantastic, I was active with the CCs, which is the customer care calls, and helping them out with how to progress their case and everything. Your support during the full claim review training meant so much to me. Best of luck with your new team. They will be lucky to have you. Let's definitely stay in touch. And then another one. You're fantastic and always active with the CCs, because most team leaders won't respond to CCs and will ignore for a whole week. The agent's unable to do their job. And then I agree, thank you for all your support, was from another agent. Then the next one was definitely agree 100%. There have been so many things you've helped me with since joining the team, not just with the full claim reviews, but with sorting my 2-pay transfer issues out too, because this agent had a lot of major 2-pay transfer issues that were complex, and there was many reasons that agents were put onto my team because they were the ones that none of the rest of the company wanted to deal with. I had to resolve all their issues and help them out. I did. I helped them out, and I was fantastic at my job and did everything to help resolve all of their issues. And I just got them into a great state where there was no more issues other than one agent that screamed at me. And I was going to be able to finally just do my job without having to do 90% of the extra groundwork, which I was having to do to help everything and resolve a million issues that everything came with. I think the new team will have won the team leader lottery. And then the next one is, wish you all the best with your next team, Jason. Been a pleasure working with you. Appreciate all the effort you've put in with me to pass my monitors, which is, basically we have to grade their work against a literal scale every single month. And some of these agents, they came with very much low grades, like 25-40%, and I got them up to the 90% requirements. And they were passing fantastic when I left them in a great state, and they also had productivity that had to be at a certain level. And one of the agents went from not doing any completions at all to absolutely nailing the productivity at the end of my period. So I really, really helped support these into the greatest position they could have been. And how does the company reward you? By transferring you to a god awful that I will explain again in a bit. I think they're a prime example of the ample support you've provided, and your new colleagues will be lucky to work with you. Okay, and then after this, so I was transferred with 2 of my agents, which are not the ones here, so they didn't send lovely messages, but they have sent an expression of how amazing they and the best agents on the entire campaign. Honestly, I helped them out to be the greatest agents they could have been from being freshly trained agents, and they're way better than any of the other agents on the whole campaign. It's not just because of them being my agents, it's a true fact. Like their productivity, their monitors, they're higher than any of the other agents on the campaign. Okay, so I was told that none of my other team wanted to come with me, and they specifically said they don't want to come with me. Now, I know that this wasn't true because they contacted the OAM, which is assistant manager, to say that they wanted to come over onto my team specifically and directly, and they've shown me evidence of that. And the company wants to lie and claim that no, nobody wants to be on his team. You speak to them all awfully, and they all hate you. That's their impression of what's going on. So I posted in my chat, hey, hope you're doing well, expression of interest, who would be interested in being on my team? No guarantees of anything, but who would want to be on my team? So I got the evidence to prove that they all did want to be on my team. All the emoji reactions are different people to actually wrote messages, the ones that specifically wrote messages. So there was the one that said me, there was another that said me please, there was another that said me too, and then there's another that said I was. Obviously I took 2 along with me. So, that's 6, 7, 8, and, 9, 10, 11. Only one that's missing is the agent that shouts at me. Interesting, isn't that? So, yeah, no, and, I got them all into a fantastic team. I was an amazing team leader to them, very supportive. They all very much appreciated me. They know that I didn't speak to anyone awfully, but the company's impression is that I must speak to everyone awfully and they'll hate me. So what they did is, because I had a complaint against the one agent that was shouting at me, they transferred me onto another team. This other team had had 5 previous team leaders in the past 3 months because they were atrocious and they'd driven people out of the company. And when I came over to them, the previous team leader had done a lot of things very, very wrong. They held on to a lot of the DWP cases that needed to be transferred to the team. They messed up the brand new cases for providing to that team. And they held on to all of those for when I transferred over, and then they made it as though I was the bad guy and giving them an unreasonable amount of workload. So I had to transfer in the very, very first instance. So within the first week, I had to transfer 370 cases amongst the team, which is an unreasonable amount, along with giving 120 allocated amongst the team, which a great number of those agents were part-time, and that then became an unreasonable workload. But I was made to do it by the previous team leader, who held on to all that just to sabotage me into an awful position. And in the very, very first team meeting with this team, I was accosted and shouted at by the agents in that team, which made the agents that came across with me very upset, and they felt that it was a challenging environment to be in as a result of the way that these agents were operating and acting towards. This insubordination and inappropriate behaviour continued repeatedly in multiple buzz sessions and in multiple CCs, where I'm trying to provide them the correct guidance on how to progress claims, and they are refusing to follow instructions and doing things very inappropriate and very wrong. So yeah, that became a major issue. And so there's one that was taking beyond the company policy for time off, and I had to take them through the correct procedures for that. That agent was being very aggressive and accosting me and putting in complaints against me for following company procedures. I made sure to go to a HR clinic and the chief of HR on these and followed their guidance and advice, and still the company would completely say that I was doing things wrong by following this advice and doing exactly what I was told to do by the HR departments. And I repeatedly expressed that these agents were very insubordinate. There were 8 on the new team that were completely insubordinate and rude and aggressive to me in every single instance, would not follow instructions and would actively defy me, shout at me in team meetings. And this was completely inappropriate, and the company would do nothing about it, and they just told me, you have to take this team, this is what the transfer is, no changes will be made, you have to take this team. They offered support to help deal with these agents. This support was, instead of investigating the work avoidance that was very blatant and apparent in a great number of these agents, to cover up the work avoidance and hold a fake investigation that glossed over and ignored all of the issues, ignored the ways the agents spoke to me, and just basically glossed it over so that no investigations could actually occur. So, the company has been completely operating absolutely disgustingly, and they've transferred me into a situation to have literal mental abuse from these additional agents that I've had to take on, going from my caring team, who were absolutely fantastic, who I've helped support, into being fantastic agents and way better than the states that they had been given to me, because they were in challenging situations for a great many of the agents that were provided to me, with many complex issues that I've had to then resolve, that I'm surprised that the company had no ability to even resolve. They were just thrown onto the brand new team leaders because they thought that that would be, their problem. You deal with all the stress, we've just dumped it all on you. And that was obviously quite inappropriate. And yeah, so we're just going to go to the rating for Teleperformance on Trustpilot. 1.3. I feel the 5 stars are by the company. I even saw one that I believe was Chris, can't say his full name, which is manager of the campaign. And that's one of the 5-star ones. So obviously, this one's racism, they've reported. This one, I don't know if this was my agent or not, but this is very, very true. There's serious concerns about the data and the communication standards on the DWP linked work. There were a lot of agents that were storing personal data on their emails and breaching GDPR, and the company trainers were actively suggesting that agents should do that. And when I raised that one of my agents that I had first been given had hundreds of these notes with customer personal data saved in their email, the team OAM, the assistant manager at the time, was blasé about it and said it's fine as long as they delete it at the end of the day. Which obviously they weren't even doing, but that's also still a breach of GDPR, because there are specific systems that are in place to do it on the claimant's account in the correct noted section, where it can be processed through proper data handling purposes and with proper timekeeping as to deleting the personal data. These include things that were checks in people's bank accounts with bank account numbers and personal details and names, transactions and money that people were storing indefinitely in their email, duplicated unnecessarily, which is again against GDPR, and in a system that cannot be controlled by anyone other than that agent because it's in their personal work email. So that then means that it's separate to any sort of proper data handling practices, which is again against GDPR. But the company didn't care that they were breaching GDPR. And that is obviously a major issue. And they are being hired by not only the government, Universal Credit Claim Review Department for Work and Pensions, but many, many, many other companies, including anything that might involve where you've had your ID verified, because that's their speciality. And what their ID verification is, if you're slightly covering one corner with your finger, they will tell you, no, we can't accept that because we need to see all 4 corners of the document that you're holding. If you have it slightly blurry, slightly tinted, slightly covering your face, if your ears aren't showing, if slightly the top of your head is not quite in the picture, anything, if your camera isn't a fully 4K crystal clear photo, even though you can read the information on the document and see that it is the person that they're claiming to be and match the address and name, they will reject it. So if you've ever had that, it's a very good likelihood that you've been dealing with Teleperformance. They are also content moderators for TikTok and various other platforms, and a great deal of many other things that you probably aren't aware that they are responsible for. They're outsourced, and you will probably never know that it is Teleperformance. Okay. Deeply disappointing stressing over a prolonged period, administrative failures, lack of empathy, felt like complete disregard for employee well-being. This is very accurate from upper management. Annual leave requests are repeatedly declined due to business needs. Again, in December, they rejected a lot of requests for annual leave, and you had to use up all your annual leave entitlement by the end of December, otherwise you would lose it. And they didn't provide the agents the opportunity to actually use their entitlement of annual leave. They rejected a lot of them, and they blamed the team leaders. They said, if you have a problem with this, talk to your team leader. And the team leaders got heavily accused of rejecting all the holiday requests when it was management decision to not allow them and to say there weren't enough hours to go around for the annual leave, so that people couldn't actually use their annual leave entitlement, and that was a significant and major problem. Then a lot of people did end up going on either dependency leave or unauthorized absence, and yeah, it was definitely a problem. It was very stressful for the agents and the team leaders that were being accused of being the problem by the management when they were the ones that were preventing it and saying that every single piece of annual leave needed to go through the, not the OAM, not the assistant manager, but the OM, the manager. They needed to be authorized by them, otherwise it wouldn't be accepted. But then they also said, well, it's all overbooked anyway, and you're not getting your entitlements. Even during personal and medical circumstances, so people were also being prevented from taking medical leave because there weren't enough hours, and that was a problem. Payroll accuracy is a major issue. One of the agents that I had was also not getting paid for wages that they were entitled for one of the months, and that was definitely a significant problem. They have not, 1 year later, still received a response. So they were given to me with this payroll issue already outstanding from their previous team leader who did nothing about it. My OM promised to do something about it. My OAM promised to do something about it. Payroll provided no response that was remotely appropriate, just a whole load of jargon that meant nothing. They blamed the timesheets, they blamed all sorts of things that were not correct because I investigated thoroughly. The timesheets were all put in correctly. There was nothing to explain why they weren't being paid, and yet they were told that there was an advance, that they never had an advance, and that was why the pay was being deducted and why they were missing £800 plus. So it was a significant issue. And they started to get a response from anything. Basic HR administration was considered consistently poor. There's not really a HR department, so to say. There's 3 HR people who will barely give you a response on things, and there's not really a HR department because the team leader has to do everything. Even simple corrections such as fixing a misspelled claim was flagged from the start of employment, were ignored for years. So yeah, anything you want to get done, it's very challenging to do as a supervisor, but you have to do everything, and departments will fight you on trying to get anything corrected or put into place that is appropriate and necessary. Cumulative impact has affected your mental well-being. Everyone feels the attack on their mental well-being from this company. You feel undersupported, undervalued, emotionally drained, blamed for everything when it is not your fault, and made to take the scapegoat for other people's mistakes and everything that other people do. It is not people focused. It is definitely the operational targets again. Some of the people were being told they needed to book 16 interviews per week, which is beyond what is reasonable. And yeah, there's a lot of very, very significant problems with definite. Worked at Teleperformance for 2 years on the internet project. Negative. Both the company and the project consistently disregarding the needs of agents. The environment is built on pressure and poor working conditions, completely unrealistic expectations, performance goals without being provided the proper tools, resources, or training, and the staffing levels to realistically achieve them. Again, high call volumes, unreasonable expectations, and letting people go suddenly. Poor management, no compassion from the higher bosses, no pay increase, less support, harsh working environments, and also you are paid as supervisor pay salary for doing manager level stuff. Do not work for them. Wasted 6 years of my life working for this. Calling it great place to work, which is a paid for thing, and also people are literally filling out the form saying it's not a great place to work, but they're still saying that they got the Great Place to Work award, which is not true. And you ask anyone's experience from any of the agents and any of the staff, I don't know how they supposedly win this, because they do not. Student finance campaign, everything's miserable. Again, this shows that it's just not just the campaign that I was working on for the Department for Work and Pensions, but a great many other campaigns that they do as well. Zero appreciation, zero respect, zero genuine support, which is the difference that I was doing as a team leader. I was supporting my team, I was helping them, and I was being the best and putting everything right that the rest of the company was wrong. And management didn't like me because of that, I feel, and that was a problem. The quality team, so there's a separate quality team that also do monitors, they were also being caught for doing things wrong, because one of the quality team would just post incorrect monitors, and then when you go, well, this isn't correct, what case was this? And I didn't keep track of it. And then when you get that disputed, they're like, oh, I must have copy and pasted a monitor from another agent. And it wasn't this agent at all. So got that overturned when one of my agents was being incorrectly marked down. Another one has several months, the quality team have marked them down on not performing things correctly. And I've gone into the case and I've looked through it and I've gone, no, yep, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. And they've had to overturn the marking and proven that again, the quality team were marking things incorrectly and trying to mark down agents on things that they have done correct and followed the correct processes. So, yeah. So I think they might have also had a hatred for me because I was fighting for my agents and getting the scores corrected when they have done everything right and they deserve their high graded monitors. So it was not appropriate the way that the company was doing that either. Information given in the interview was incorrect. Yep, they were being abused for needing to speak an extra language and, taken advantage of. That I can't, unfortunately. Evil company. I worked there and they left me without payments. In a most distant country, I was relocated. The high management are the most shady people I've ever met. Again, the higher management. OAMs and the AMs. The OMs. Those are the people that you need to look at. Shitty company. Went through the hiring process with them, received an email. The project was cancelled by the client 6 weeks before kickoff. At least they got all my details and current pay at their competitor. Okay. Among the worst places to work, will not recommend it at all. They treat you like you're nothing from management down. Turnover of staff is a lot because of this, and the team leaders were also turning over a lot because of the way that they were being treated by upper management and being accused of being responsible for everything by the upper management. And, oh, you can't have your annual leave because it's your team leader's fault, even though it was upper management that was standing in the way of people taking their annual leave and their entitlement to leave and every other issue under the sun, that they will stand in the way of you being able to do your job and help the agents. And if you dare speak up against anything, you become the enemy and they will find a way to engineer you into awful situations. Do not work from this company. Stay away. My experience with this company has been an absolute nightmare. Everything is handled virtually, which means you can't speak to anyone directly. Well, we can have Teams calls. Responses take forever. Well, with my team, I made sure respond as quickly as possible every single time. A lot of other team leaders, they would leave it an entire week, if not more, before even responding to anyone. I wanted to be different with that for my team because I knew that that was a problem that prevented people doing their jobs. So I was the difference. I made sure to support my team and always give them the quickest response and the correct response. I did not take forever. Dealing with staff who seem confused and unable to give clear answers about anything because a lot of the team leaders that have never been agents, they didn't know what they were doing. They did not understand the processes. They didn't understand whatsoever. They were awful. Despite providing clear medical notes while I was off, I felt completely ignored. Every capability meeting focused on business needs. So again, once I became team leader, there were people that were off sick. There was a time frame that we were taught in training for how to give welfare checks and calls, and then when it triggers capability meetings and things like that. The instant we became team leaders, they reduced that you have to get a capability meeting within 2 weeks. You have to get them an occupational health referral that essentially establishes if they have any mental health concerns that they want to claim that they can't do their job as a result of, to get them out of the company. And we were being essentially forced to fire people through these meetings, which we had to follow the processes we were being given and told to follow. And it's unfair on us and it's unfair on the agents. But if we didn't follow those processes, we would be the ones responsible and we would lose our jobs. So management were very specific about how very quickly we needed to go onto these and how many of these that we need to do, which again takes up a lot of your time to have to take all of these things. Breaks are short. You got a 15-minute break and a 30-minute break and then a 15-minute break unpaid, which I'm sure it used to be the legal thing that you could take a 15 minutes and a 30-minute paid break as an option, or if you wanted that extra 15 minutes unpaid, but it seems that the company are just like, you have to take this 1 hour unpaid break. So that also then means while you're on a 40-hour contract, under any other 40-hour contracts, those paid breaks would be taken away from that 40 hours. This company, that 40-hour contract is 40 worked hours and then 5 hours unpaid break over the week. So that was, that was the way that they operated. My contract was terminated while I was still unwell. I was told I wasn't entitled to pay for hours I know I worked. When I questioned it, it was shown deductions on my payslip that in my opinion made no sense and couldn't be explained by people issuing me them. I honestly felt like they were just making things up as they went along, and that definitely seems the case, with payroll for definite and reasons that they will find to not pay you the money that you are owed. I've definitely witnessed that. Certified great place to work for the first 48 hours. Half working headsets, pressure-filled survey before they're taking a single call. Blowing early score becomes to statistical human shield they use to pass the best place to work across every job hat. Once the actual call starts, the proof appears. Handling simple password resets. I got the lost souls at the end. Okay, yep. So, again, we got very, very complex calls and very different things. Sitting in my chair talking into a headset, which, the headset was also very, very painful. And had no pads on the ears. They were just basically plastic on the ears. All day and was painful. Give me earache. Teleperformance extracts every ounce of energy and happiness from you and gives you back the bare minimum. A truly terrible place to work. Worked for the company for some months. I was heading in service when I gladly resigned. The team manager I had wasn't supportive for reasons I don't know. I was suspecting racism. No one going against him because he trained the other supervisors who equally managed my training and work. He was somewhat unquestionable. All the trainings and engagements were haphazard, and the expectations were very high without support and the necessary guidance as a worker. I had to resign. I'm sure my manager or supervisor, personal name that you shouldn't really say, but yeah. Okay. Company for credits, having lots of support. Okay, yeah, we should probably you get the picture. 1 star, 1 star, 1 star. Lloyd's Banking Group. A lot of the 2P transfers were from Lloyd's, and views regarding that. Do not work here. Have not been paid along with the others who quit that month. Everyone who's employed there still got paid though. Nowhere contacting anyone apart from the email. Training was 2 weeks, it's a bunch of word salad and mumbo jumbo, which didn't explain the job role and definitely didn't do anything to do with what you were doing. And then when you go onto training labs, again, they only show you the first stage and not how to do the actual claim review. It was goddamn awful. But when I was team leader, I helped my agent to fully process and do everything. Right. Occasional town hall meetings of the campaign, blah blah blah. Yeah, you know, you can see there's a lot of problems and do not work here, period. So all of them, you can see that there's quite a few issues across quite many campaigns with the way that Teleperformance is, and hasn't replied to the negative reviews because they just know that they're a business. Now, I will go into quickly that they have a monthly email that they send out that says if you have any issues, you should contact the Global Ethics Standards. And this is supposedly marketed as an external company. But what it actually is Integrity Line, and it's an internal process to intercept people that have complaints against the company to make sure that they aren't made external, to prevent people from going to the press or raising serious ethical concerns external to the company. And we'll go through a sham of an investigation process that will twist things, not address your actual complaint, and will just completely ignore everything and prevent you from taking the actual action that you should be taking, which is to go to something like ACAS, where you will actually get support externally and you can correctly report issues that you are facing. Okay, so I've been blabbing for 40 minutes. I think that's enough of my ranting about how Teleperformance is. Again, I was a team leader and I was transferred onto this. Did I ever go into how goddamn awful this other team were that I got put onto? How from the very, very first meeting, there was aggressive and inappropriate tone towards me from multiple of the agents. And that put the agents that came across with me into a position where they felt that it was affecting their mental health as a result of this team. This team would then be very inappropriate conduct towards me on repeated occasions, on CCs with them. They would be insubordinate and refuse to follow orders. They would do things that were then incorrect, so they were failing the monitors. They would want these monitors disputed, and the quality team would say, no, this was marked correctly. You are incorrect to be disputing this. They would then try to complain to the OAM, who was their friend, who was telling me, you will have to take this team. You have been assigned to this. Whatever you were told was incorrect. This is your team. There's no problems with them. They're all lovely people. And then would cover up for their work avoidance, where a great many of them had not worked on cases that they were supposed to be working on. Overtime agents were working on their cases to help progress them towards interview because these agents were not doing their job. And these agents were leaving these in that status and not even booking the interviews in. But the sham investigation that the OAM did said, no, there's no work avoidance issues. Oh, there's no way that they're insubordinate or talking to you badly, and just completely ignored and glossed over everything, when a great many of these agents were so insubordinate that they would literally refuse to follow any instructions and be able to manage. which was driving me over the edge, because just going from my lovely, fantastic team to having to take over such a goddamn awful team that was so insubordinate and would not follow instructions, I could not do anything to help them because they would literally just be that insubordinate. But I was being forced into this position because I obviously put in a complaint because the manager that I had previously was not letting me deal with this agent that had made claimant suicidal and was shouting at me. And as a result of putting in that complaint, which would have then implicated that manager, they've transferred me to this team, which is known to be a very, very problematic team. Other team leaders in this command have stated how they found that the very insubordinate to talk to, and still I would get accused as though I'm somehow the problem, even though they've entered me into the state of having to completely gone down awful agent. And these agents are also speaking to claimants and getting a great many complaints against them. Some of them for not engaging with them and not responding to them when they've stated, I cannot book this date of the interview that you've got because I have a CAT scan, or I have work on that day, or in some instances, my family member has passed away, so I cannot be dealing with this right now. And these agents would not be responding to the claimants. They would be marking no reply needed and just ignoring them. There were agents that were just ignoring claimants that were saying that they were suicidal. There was agents that were complaining about how they were being treated and that they were being aggravated by these agents. And these agents would just ignore them and do nothing. And if I tried to help them to do the right thing, they would complain to the OAM about me and say that I was somehow not treating them right for trying to get them to just do their job and to assist the claimants. So now I can't work for that company anymore because I can't be put in such a state that I'm going to be accused of being the one to blame when the agents are mistreating universal credit claimants so badly, and I'm trying to get them to do the right thing to support the claimants, but instead they want to abuse them, missupport them, ignore them, and then hand them over for suspension to lose their entitlement to universal credit, to claim that they've not provided the stuff that they need to provide when they have not supported them in being able to provide that information, or hand them over for not attending interviews because they have not responded to the messages where the claimant has said, I cannot work this date, and they're trying to rebook it to a date that is convenient for them. But these agents were just being so inappropriate that it made it impossible to do my job as team leader. I cannot work for such a shady organisation. I have to give all the full flowing on everything that has been going on. I am very available to discuss any issues regarding Teleperformance and regarding the Universal Credit Claim Review process, or anyone that would like information, including the. Thank you for your time. Have a lovely day.